Okay, good day, class. So, welcome to our discussion for the week 6 to 7 in the GE3 or the contemporary world. So, I'll share skin to you my PowerPoint. I know my SIM or the self instructional manual. Okay, the unit learning outcomes for the week 6 to 7. So at the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain how the globalization affects the religious practices and the beliefs, compare the social impacts of the different media on the process of the globalization, and lastly, to analyze how the cities serve as the engines of the globalization. So first, we will discuss ULO letter A, which to explain the globalization that affects the religious practices and the beliefs. Okay, let us discuss first what is religion. So, religion, much more than a culture, has the most difficult relationship with the globalism. So, as we remember in the lesson one, the distinction between the globalization and the globalism. So the two are entirely contrasting beliefs, which religion is concerned with the sacred, while the globalism places value on the material wealth. Or religion is a term used to denote, that is sacred, or it adheres the holy scriptures and the per conceives the idea of a possibility of communication between the humans and the deities. So religion assumes that there is a possibility of this communication between the humans and the transcendent. So those living on their soul. So this link between the human and the divine confers some social power on the latter. So furthermore, there is what we call as God, Allah, or Yahweh defines and judges human action in a moral terms like good versus the bad. However, globalism is a term, which is the material wealth that focuses on the laws made by human beings and purports the idea that the ultimate satisfaction in this world can be made through a conscious actions of the people living in a certain society. So globalism is a result of the human actions, while the religion is the idea of possibility connection, communication between the humans and the deities. So this globalism also abides by the human-made laws. So we are the one who create this globalism in the entire globe. And globalism's yardstick, however, is how much human action can lead to the highest material satisfaction and subsequent wisdom that this new status produces. Religious people are less concerned with wealth and all that comes along with it, that is higher social status, a standard of living similar with that of the rest of the community, exposure to culture, top of the line education for their children. So it's the person whose duty is to live a life with integrity, without sin, and with assurance that when he dies, he will have a distinct place called the heaven. So that is the religious person. So they are not focusing on what was happening on the globe or around the world. So they were just focusing on themselves to be faithful with God, and they are living live a life which could be considered as sacred. While the globalist, they are less worried about whether they will end up in heaven or hell. Their skills are more pedestrian as they aim to seal the trade deals, raise the profits of the private enterprise, improve the government revenue collections, protect the elites from being excessively taxed by the state, and naturally enrich themselves. So, meaning to say, globalists are those people who are more on focusing on their wealth, right? Yung pagpapayaman nila. Uh, may gusto sila na abutin yung dreams and goals nila to have a car, to have a house, to have a successful life. So, yun siya. So, they have a strong social and a political command. Okay, for the realities among these two, so we have here Peter Berger. Um, there are lots of things to understand as far as this religion is linked to the globalism or the globalization. So several theories have been laid down for the scholars to fully grasp its relevant connection. So we have here Peter Berger. He emphasized that most of the political and government foundations are based on the indigenous and the popular religion or the religious practices. So this Peter Berger is a should he is a person who is um, there should be a balance between this political foundation and the government that is based on this religion because yung mga ginagawa or what is happening in the politics and in the government, their religious people could also benefit or could help to the current problems that we are facing. Just like, but in some cases, there are some problems here that we are going to be facing. So just like, for example, in this COVID-19 pandemic, that uh, one of the health protocol is to be safe is wearing face masks, but there are some priests that they would say that, yeah, by prayers, so you could be uh, safe or by just praying to God. But a balance with this health protocol and also praying is uh, great tool to prevent or to fight this pandemic. Okay, another example is the government in the Malaysia. So in the Malaysia, they emphasize their adherence to the Islam religion as the basic foundation of their republic. So furthermore, we have here Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini that brought the foundations of the Islam are by far more potent than the other religions used as a basis for their political ascendancy. So another example is the Moderate Muslim Association or the Nahdlatul Ulama in Indonesia as Islamic schools that teaches varied fields of science, technology, and the society to its students aside from the theology of the Islam religion. And also in the Church of England, was shaped by the rationality of the modern democratic culture, uh, which is a clear manifestation that the secular and the religious concepts, theories, and the principles overlap as it affects the system of the society in general. So these examples would say that religions are the foundations of these modern republics, diba? Just like what happened sa Malaysia. Sa kanila is the constitution, the Malaysian government constitution explicitly states that Islam is the religion of the federation and the rulers of each state was also the head of the religion of the Islam because most Malaysian people are Muslims. And then in the Indonesia, there are some Islamic schools, diba, that could also cater or thought the students to study not only about Islam but also modern science, social sciences, modern banking, civic education, rights of the women, pluralism, and democracy. Unlike in the country of Pakistan, so young children, like especially in girls, so wala silang rights to education. So if you're familiar with Malala, so si Malala is a Pakistani na young female na may mga Pakistani na people na papatayin sana siya, pinagbabaril siya. And then she survived that gunshot. So that is why he is now fighting on the rights of education among women sa mga Islamic religion. Okay, also another is the in the England, so the rationality of the modern democratic culture. Um, Example is the King Henry VIII. So King Henry broke away from the Roman Catholicism and established his own church to bolster his own powers. Isa din siya na resulta ng religion and the globalization. While in the United States, the religion and law were fused together to help build this modern secular society. So di ba, one of the laws or the rules and regulation sa mga article sa Philippine Constitution or any other constitution from abroad or any countries that they are basing it sa law that was written, for example, in the Bible or any other sacred books, di ba? So, related then dyan, like for example, sa 10 Commandments. So, some of the laws or the rules and regulation is also the same on that. Okay, next is religion for the against in the globalization. So, your question. So globalization has freed communities from the constraints of the nation state, but in the process also threatened to destroy the cultural systems that bind them together. While the religion, it seeks to take the place of these broken traditional ties to either help the communities cope with their new situation or organize them to oppose this major transformation of their lives. So again, globalization is we have this freedom or a democratic opinion or the freedom of expression. Kasi nga, globalization is around the globe, so in country to country, to any other parts of the world. While this religion is yung traditional ties na sinusunod natin, so dyan siya magre-resulta ng pagiging, tawag nito, help siya na makipag-cope up sa bagong situation that may experience siya ng isang bansa. Okay, we have here an example. Religious fundamentalism may dislike the globalization's materialism, but it continues to use the full range of the modern means of communication and organization that is associated with its economic transformation. So it is therefore not entirely correct to assume that the proliferation of the born again groups, or in the case of this, Islam. Okay, the rise of the movement like the Daesh, more popularly known as the ISIS. So the meaning of ISIS, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Syria. So that have been organized or they signals religion's defense against the materialism of the globalization. It is in fact that opposite. These fundamentalists or organizations are the result of the spread of the globalization and both find ways to benefit or take advantage of this each other. Okay, itong ISIS pala as they are have been organized to protect the religious interests from that of the globalization. Kasi ito na grupo, sila is nakikita nila na parang may unequal distribution siya sa mga bansa. Like for example, makikita sa bansang Amerika, China, or Japan. So diba sila yung mga successful countries. So parang na-left behind itong country na Iraq and Syria. Parang naisip nila na hindi sila tinutulungan ng mga bansang US, China, or Japan kasi nga mas successful countries sila. So mas nagiging successful pa sila more. So ano nangyari ng Islamic country? So parang napabayaan na sila. So that is why they created this group to equalize or to tell the different governments of every countries na dapat equal siya yung distribution ng kikitain nila. So yun siya. So in conclusion, so to fully understand the issues between the globalization and the religion, we should first understand the several idealisms about this issue. So as siya nakasabitan no. Now, it was mentioned by Peter Bayer and Laurie Beeman. They observed the religion, it seems, is somehow outside looking at the globalization as a problem or a potential. So it depends on the situation in which there should be a balance between these two, right? The globalization and then the religion. Kasi nga, parang nakakalimutan na natin yung ating religious beliefs. Just like for example, this COVID-19 pandemic, so napapalayo tayo na magsimba every Sunday or any other schedules of different religion. Just like also experience this one. Kaya nga parang tinitest tayo ni God about this pandemic if ano talaga kalaki yung faith natin sa Kanya. Okay, that's a wrap for the first lesson. Okay, next is the media and the compare the social impacts, different media on the process of this globalization or the media and the globalization. So globalization entails the spread of the various cultures. It also involves the spread of ideas, for example, the notion of the rights of the LGBT, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Since some countries are focusing na, di ba, sa mga ganitong mga grupo, so para mag-spread na din siya sa other countries. So ang traditional way natin when it comes to gender is male or boy lang at saka girl or the female. So di ba dalawa lang yun siya. Unlike to any other countries, so may since nag-evolve na naman ang mga tao or tayo humans, so may bago na namang gender na nabuo. So ito yung mga LGBT communities. When it comes to religion, is dalawa lang yun siya, di ba? Was written from, for example, sacred book sa Bible, men and women lang. But nga, ayun siya, of these issues, of these equalities, that even though we have different genders, but you have these unique talents or your abilities, your skills, di ba? And then, sabi din ni Lord God that sa mata niya is pantay-pantay tayo dapat. So, walang mga discrimination na nabubuo. And then, similarly, also the conservative Christian church, ayun nga, that oppose this right moves from the places like in the South America to Korea and to Burundi and in the Africa. Kasi yun nga, nakaugalian natin na dalawa lang yung gender dapat, the boy at saka the girl. Okay, people who travel the globe teaching and preaching their beliefs in the universities, the churches, public forums, classrooms, or even as guests of a family play a major role in the spread of this culture and the ideas. But today, we have this television program, di ba yung nakita natin or nababalitaan natin ng mga news or social media groups, di ba? Yung mga Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter na pinopost, yung mga mag-trending or mababalita din doon or magpo-post, magpa-viral. Or in some books that we have read on some movies, yung inspiration nila sa kanilang movies, magazines, and the like that have made easier for the advocates to reach larger audience. Globalization relies on the media as its main conduit for the spread of the global culture and the ideas. So we have here, according to Jacques Lal, how do you pronounce his name? Lolly. So Jacques Lolly is a means, or he said that uh, media is a means of the conveying something. such as the channel of the communication. It also means the technologies of the mass communication. So you may also ask this question: could global trade have evolved without a flow of information on markets, prices, commodities, and more? Or could have empires have stretched across the world without communication throughout their borders? Or could religion, music, poetry, film, fiction, cuisine, and fashion develop as they have without the intermingling of the media and the culture? So yun siya ang mga example ng mga media. So anything that could create the globalism or the globalization. So pwede siya sa markets, sa mga prices, sa commodities, sa fashion, religion, sa music, sa poetry, sa mga movies, uh, fiction, and so on. Next is globalism is a term used to denote the value of the material wealth. So yun siya yung na-mention ko kanina between the globalism and then the religion. So there is an intimate relationship between this globalism and the media, or the globalization and the media, which must be unraveled to further understand this contemporary world. Okay, the media and its functions. According to Jack Lowry, so media as a means of conveying something, such as the channel of the communication. So ito yung sinabi ni Jack Love. Because technically speaking, a person's voice is also a medium, di ba? So di nyo ma-understand or di nyo masabtan ng ako ang kinadiscuss sa lesson without using my voice or showing my facial expression or the emotion that yes, it is an online class or a virtual class that you can see me in this video presentation or the screen recording video that I am also discussing and having this online class. However, when commentators refer this media, they mean technologies of this mass communication. So I use this laptop as a means of this technology to record this video presentation as our online class. Or it could be print media, di ba? So you printed the lesson from that I posted sa paper kasi parang di nyo gusto na nagbabasa in soft copies. Medyo masakit siya sa mata. So you print it out or you could compile it in a book, magazine, and the newspaper. Or it could be a broadcast media like you are listening a news from the radio or watching a film or a movie and also in the television. And then the digital media cover the internet and the mobile mass communication. But within this category, the internet media, there are the emails, the internet sites, the social media, and the internet-based video and the audio. So those are the examples of this media. But on this type of media on this modern world or this technological world, the 21st century. So are more on this internet media. Kasi di ba, with these projects, laptop, mobile phones, or tablets, so we could access now to the internet. Okay, while it is relatively easy to define the term media, it is more difficult to determine what media do and how they affect societies. Okay, we have here media theorist Marshall McLuhan. So Marshall McLuhan once declared that the medium is the message. He did not mean that ideas or the messages are useless and do not affect the people. Rather, his statement was an attempt to draw attention to how this media as a form of technology and reshape the societies. Thus, for example, television is not a simple bearer of the messages. It also shapes the social behavior of users and also reorient the family behavior. Because watching this television, right, it could also affect the bonding of the family. Yung father is tumitingin na lang siya sa TV about sa news. So, wala na silang communication na makipag-usap sa wife niya or sa mga anak niya. So, yun siya. And then today, the smartphones allows users to keep in touch instantly with the multiple people at the same time. So consider the effect of this internet on the relationships, diba? Which is the internet media. Just like for example, the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So I have watched the documentary film about this internet media. If you try to watch it on Netflix, so the title is Social Dilemma. So that movie talks about, or a documentary about this modern world or this technological world about the social media. May mga CEO, mga manager na na-hire na nag-work sila sa Twitter, sa Facebook, at saka sa Instagram. So sila is, yeah, they are rich now. But it could say that working on that certain company or job is parang minsan is sa bahay nila is nagtatrabaho pa rin sila. So nawawala nila yung focus nila sa mga anak nila na nasa bahay or sa kanilang asawa. And then, time to time, nag-check sila sa kanilang email if ano naman na yung pinagagawa ng boss nila. Just like us, mga netizens, di ba na, just like for example, you are fun in Facebook. So, di ba, in the Facebook is, minsan, if mag-upload tayo ng picture, is time to time, check natin sino yung nagla-like, sino ang nagka-heart reaction, sino din yung nagko-comment. So, how many likes na? So, tinitingnan talaga natin yan from time to time. So, in this documentary, so it really impact sa ganitong panahon na parang yung brain natin na function na kinukuha lahat ng atensyon natin sa social media, just like on this situation, in this online class. So I know most of you are just scrolling sa Facebook or naglalaro ng Mobile Legends. So it kills our time, di ba? Instead of we are studying sa paper, yung in-upload ko na lessons or topic, binabasa ninyo. So I think may iba dyan na di pa nagbabasa related sa ating topic. So, kaya sa exam ko or sa mga quiz is maliit na yung score ninyo. Kasi nga parang kinain na tayo ng sistema ng this internet media. So, isa din yan siya ng mga cause ng mga mental health problem, just like I also experienced this anxiety and depression, di ba, with this current situation that we are facing today, the COVID-19 pandemic. So, I have now a new mindset that to set aside those technology or my phone. So, dito sa online class ko sa consultation room, so wala akong phone dito, so nilagay ko talaga siya sa bag para walang makakadisturbo sa akin sa pagdi-discuss sa lesson ninyo. So time to time, is nag-check lang ako mga ilang minuto if may nag-chat sa akin na importante, mga co-teachers ko, yun siya, or about sa family, or some friends, yun siya, diba? So, medyo, sa ngayon is, sinasabi ko sa sarili ko na, dapat hindi na ako mas uh, yung time ko is nasa social media nga kasi nga isa din siya ng mga cost ng mga disadvantages sa atin, di ba? Like, for example, may mga bashers, di ba? May negative comments base sa ating picture. So, may mga negative thoughts na naman napapasok sa isipan natin na, ay, di pala ako maganda or di pala ako gwapo. So, how about we feel down? So, ma-down tayo sa sarili natin or we will be self-pity. So yun siya. And then i-compare na naman natin yung mga life natin sa iba nating kakilala. Buti pa si Juan is may bahay na siya na kanya, may sasakyan na siya na ganyan. So diba, there is a lot of impact on this technological world that we are experiencing today. So as a millennial, so ako nabilang ako sa millennial world, um, so for me, there should be a limitation of using this, di ba? Just like for example, mga fake news na nababasa natin, like for example sa Facebook na mag-trending lang or magba-viral, hindi naman sila professional yung mga nagpo-post, di ba? Anything or anyone can post dyan sa social media. Okay, next is the global village and the cultural imperialism. So McLuhan, he emphasized the role of technology pertaining to media reshaping the society and influencing other people's cultures. For instance, he used the television as a tool that shapes the turns the society into a global village. So by this, he meant that as a more and more people as sat down in front of their television sets and listened to the same stories, their perception of the world would contract. So yan yung definition ni McLuhan sa global village, di ba? Just like there is a village na every houses may television or may gadgets, di ba? With this television, so instead of mga bayanihan or makipag uh, mingle or makipaghalubilo sa ibang kapitbahay. So, busy sila sa kanya-kanya mga bahay, nanonood ng TV, nagfi-Facebook, nagti-Twitter, or Instagram. So, yun siya, di ba? Or nanonood ng video sa YouTube, ng mga walay pulos, di ba, anak? So, in the years after McLuhan, media scholars further grappled with the challenges of the global media culture. A lot of these early thinkers assumed that the global media had a tendency to homogenize culture, and they argued that the global media spread and then the people from all over the world would begin to watch, listen to, and read the same things. Okay, another one is this cultural imperialism. So in the cultural imperialism, there are some critics that was mentioned here. Here, for example, the proponents of the idea of the cultural imperialism ignored the fact that media messages are not just made by the producers but on the consumed by the audiences, di ba? Just like for example, sa every videos from the YouTube, di ba, may pop up dyan ng mga advertisement before ka mag-play ng YouTube. So every advertisement na lalabas sa every YouTube na sinuscribe nyo is another kapalit yan ng money sa gumawa ng video or nag-post ng video. So, tayo ng mga audience ang nagko-consume or tayo ang nagbabayad sa kanila. Kasi nga yon piniplay natin or watch yung kanilang video. Kahit na for entertainment lang yun siya, hindi siya for educational purposes. So, in the year 1980s, so the media scholars began to pay attention to the ways in which the audiences understood and interpreted the media messages. So the field of audience studies emphasizes that the media consumers are active participants in the meaning-making process who view the media text in media. So we have here, so ito nga, kinukuha siya lahat ng attention natin, di ba, with this internet media that we are having. So, time to time or minute to minute, so kailangan natin ma-check yung Facebook natin or messenger natin. If nag-chat, may mga chat na di natin nakilala or for our online class na kailangan. Kaya minsan nga din is during on my online class is parang nadi-disturb or medyo I get confused about mga messenger chats with the students. Marami kong estudyante na nagtatanong, di ba, minsan gusto ko pa nga mag-deactivate ng Facebook account ko or messenger kasi nga parang nalilito na ako if ano yung uunahin ko, yung pupost ko sa paper or magre-reply ng mga tanong sa mga estudyante ko sa messenger. So yun siya. So it kills or it needs some of our attention, di ba? Like this, media. Okay, in the country of the Netherlands, in 1985 pala, in the works of Ayan Ang, so he is from the Indonesia. So this Indonesian cultural critic, Ayan Ang, studied the ways in which different viewers in the Netherlands. So it experienced watching the American soap opera and the Dallas. So though letters from the 42 viewers, she presented a detailed analysis of the audience viewing experiences rather than simply receiving an American culture in a passive and a resigned way. She noted that viewers put a lot of emotional energy into the process and they experience pleasure based on how the program resonated with them. So si Ain ang may na-observe siya sa country na Netherlands. So if, for example, may different viewers or may different movies from the America na napapanood nila, then di ba mostly sa mga American culture is they are more on liberated. Ano yung mga storyline nila is minsan di siya iba siya sa ating traditional na storyline. So parang may iba na mga Dutch or mga tao from the Netherlands na magugustuhan din nila yung pinapanood nila na mga movies. Just like for example, sa movie ng, ano yung tawag nito? Yung sa Aten original, The Pangako Sa'yo. So yung Pangako Sa'yo was first showed sa, uh, naipakita siya sa Singapore and sa Malaysia. So, on that part, so marami na gumagawa na ng mga remake na yung sa Pangako Sa'yo na movie. Or it could be, another example of this cultural imperialism pala is the Russian worst species of the show's content. So, kaya yung presidente nila, si President Vladimir Putin is may professional siya na kumukonsulta or nag-hack sa mga internet kasi may iba dyan, di ba, na gumagawa lang ng fake news or tinitira nila yung mga gobyerno, yung mga kamalian nila. Just like, for example, what happened sa ABS-CBN na yung, tingnan mo yun, di ba, napasara talaga siya ni President Rodrigo Duterte kasi nga sa mga fake news na nilalabas ng ABS-CBN. So yun siya, isa yan siya na powerful tool din sa television or the mass media. Okay, apart from the challenge of the audience studies, the cultural imperialism thesis has been belied by the renewed strength of the regional trends in the globalization process. So Asian culture, for example, pala, has proliferated worldwide through the globalization of this media. Just like, for example, in Japanese brands, diba? So, you're familiar with Hello Kitty. So, Hello Kitty is a brand from the Japan. Also, to the Mario Brothers, to the Pokemon. Diba, worldwide is, meron na yun siya na, alam din nila yan, ano yan siya na mga gamit or things. Or it could also be the invasion of the Korean group or Korean pop group or the K-pop group, di ba? Na one of the famous K-pop band ngayon or K-pop male and female groups sa male is BTS and the Blackpink, di ba? So marami na mga tao na hinggan yung manood niyan. So for example, yung bagong music video ng Blackpink, The Love Sick, di ba, is number 1 siya ngayon sa trending most watch video sa YouTube na umabot na siya ng million yung viewers nila, millions. So ilan days pa lang siya lumabas, no? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So 4 days pa lang million ang nakapanood ng music video ng Blackpink. And also the McDonald's, for example, has continued to spread across the Asia. So McDonald's, it's not a our own Filipino fast food chain. So it was originated from the United States. Ang own lang natin na fast food chain is the Jollibee. But ang Jollibee claims the number 1 choice for fast food chain naman sa Brunei. So kasi may OFW man from any other abroad, di ba? Sa UAE, sa Dubai, sa Singapore. So may malilit din na store doon sa Jollibee. Okay, for the conclusion of this media and the globalization, so this lesson showed that the different media have diverse effects on these globalization processes. At one point, it seemed that the global television was creating a global monoculture, now it seems more likely that social media will splinter cultures and ideas into a bubbles of people who do not interact. So yun siya, di ba? Instead of interaction, instead of debate sa face-to-face na kakilala nyo, so if mag-meet up kayo, di ba, or na may um, gathering is mostly is scroll na lang sa social media. So wala nang direct communication na mangyayari. So through chat na lang. So yun siya. And then, di siya maganda, di ba? So mas mabuti na there should be a limitation of using this gadgets and social media. Kasi parang walang point yung pagkikita ninyo ng mga kagrupo nyo, mga friends mo, or kapamilya mo. Kasi nga, parang kinain na tayo ng sistema ng social media na ganito na lang yung parati natin ginagawa na scroll, scroll, scroll. So walang katapusang scroll sa Facebook. Panonood ng mga walang kwentang video sa YouTube, di ba? I also experienced that one. So why not be more productive on ourselves, di ba? Gawin na naman natin yung ibang mas makakabuti na gawin natin. Like for example, sa online class, so sa pagbabasa, sa paper. So yun siya. Okay, the next one is so we have here lastly, so ito siya is, parehas pala siya yung dati, no? Okay, on the global city, what is this global city? So global cities are those successful countries who have great impact in the entire world. So for example, the three global cities are the New York, the London, and the Tokyo, Japan. So in New York, they has the New York Stock Exchange, while the London has the Financial Times Stock Exchange, while the Tokyo has the Nikkei. So sila yung tatlong global cities. These global cities has a great impact in the entire world since sila din yung tumutulong sa ibang bansa. Malalaman siya na global city siya or successful city siya if may nice or may landmark siya na nabuo. Unlike in Australia, so the Sydney commands the greatest proportion of the capital. Just like in the Melbourne, it described as the Sydney's rival global city because many magazines and lists have now referred to it as the world's most livable city. Just like also in the example of the Singapore, di ba? So Singapore they are considered as Asia's most competitive city because of the strong market, the efficient and the incorruptible government, and the livability. So Singapore, konti lang yung population nila, maliit lang, and then walang mga corrupt leaders sa kanila, di corrupt yung mga gobyerno nila. So that's why umuusbong sila na city. Even though nung dati is isa sila sa mga pinakabaliit na countries sa Asia. Also, another global cities are also the centers of the authority, like for example, in the Washington, D.C. or the District of Columbia in the USA. It is the seat of the American state power because it it has the major landmarks, which is the White House, the Capitol Building, or the Congress, the Supreme Court, the Lincoln Memorial, and the Washington Monument. And also another city is in the New York in the United States. So it is the headquarters of the United Nations. And then the European Union is in the Brussels in the Germany. And then for the headquarters of the ASEAN or the Association of Southeast Asian Nation is in the Jakarta in the Indonesia. Okay, ano pa yung mga for the challenges of these global cities, so ito nga, they can be sites of the great inequality and poverty. Kasi nga, yun nga, yung isang bansa is patuloy sila na nagpapayaman. So, minsan din natin tulungan yung other countries na poor countries na mas issue sa kanila yung mga poverty or kahirapan. So, yun siya. And also, in conclusion, these global cities are sites and mediums of this globalization. They are therefore material representations of the phenomenon. Through them, we see the best globalization, and they are places that create exciting fusions of this culture and the idea. So, this global cities is a kind of this globalization in the entire world in which every countries may be successful or may not be succeed on their choose or on their current cities because of some problems and then issues. Okay, that's a wrap for our lesson. So I think let's end this present class. So thank you guys for listening and have a good day.